My mom told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas because my stepdad's parents, who've always hated me, would be there. So I cut all ties and stopped sending them financial support. A few months later, they showed up at my doorstep, acting like nothing had happened. I've always found phone calls that begin with a prolonged silence unsettling. They rarely signal good news. 3 days before Christmas, my mother's hesitation on the other end of the line revealed everything before. She uttered a word. "Erica, dear, I think it would be better if you didn't come home for Christmas this year." My coffee mug nearly slipped from my grasp. "Mom, what are you saying?" "It's just, well, Richard's parents are visiting and they've made it quite clear they don't wish to see you." I sank onto my sofa, attempting to comprehend her words. Richard was my stepfather, married to my mom since I was 10, and his parents had never favored me. But this felt different. This was my mother choosing them over me. "We've always spent Christmas together," I stated, trying to keep my voice even. "Every single year since Dad passed away. It's our tradition." "I know, honey, but... What? You're seriously prioritizing other people over your own daughter for..." The silence that followed was more agonizing than any excuse she could have offered. When she finally spoke, her voice strained. "Erica, they've threatened to remove Richard from their will if they discover we're still in contact with you. They said they'll disinherit him and cease all communication with us." "So this is about money?" I was practically yelling. "No, it's not just that," she quickly interjected. "I've told them we haven't been in touch for years. I need you to play along with this, just this once." I laughed, but there was no amusement in it. "You want me to pretend I don't exist? In your life? That's your solution?" "Richard's parents are difficult, Erica. They're vindictive and obstinate. We need to ensure they believe no one in the family speaks to you anymore. You need to understand." I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore. To understand why Richard's parents harbored such animosity toward me, we'd need to go back over 2 decades. My biological father died in a car accident when I was 4. For 6 years, it was just Mom and me against the world. Then she met Richard, a widower with a 9-year-old daughter named Hannah. When they married, Richard and Hannah moved into our home. Things were initially all right. Hannah and I got along sufficiently. We squabbled sometimes, like sisters do, tossing pillows and vying for the remote. Normal childhood squabbles. Richard's parents, however, despised me from day one. "She's rude and ill-mannered," they'd declare, right in front of me, as if I were invisible. When they visited, they brought gifts for Hannah and nothing for me. They spoke around me, through me, but never directly to me. The worst incident occurred when I was 14. Mom and Richard left for a vacation, leaving Hannah and me with Richard's parents. Typically, we stayed with my Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, but she was occupied that time. Richard's parents were displeased about having us, especially me, but they reluctantly agreed. After a week of being cooped up, Hannah and I quarreled over the laptop. We were both incredibly bored, and tensions were high. During the argument, I nudged her, not forcefully, just a push, but she lost her balance, fell awkwardly, and broke her arm. Hannah's scream was blood-curdling. Her grandparents rushed in. Her grandfather quickly took her to the hospital, while her grandmother hysterically called Richard. "You need to come home right now," she shrieked into the phone. "Erica brutally attacked Hannah and broke her arm. She needs to be in a psychiatric clinic. She's completely out of control." After that call, everything changed. They confined me to a bedroom, confiscated my phone, and only opened the door to slide in meals. They labeled me a rabid animal and threatened me with juvenile detention. Mom and Richard cut their vacation short, returning 3 days later. Richard was enraged, claiming he couldn't trust himself to be near me. They sent me to stay with Aunt Sarah for 2 months. When I finally came home, Richard barely spoke to me. Hannah and I quickly reconciled. Ironically, the incident drew us closer. My parents coerced me into therapy for anger issues I never possessed. The atmosphere at home was suffocating afterward. When I turned 18 and departed for college in another city, it felt like escaping a prison. During college, I maintained contact only with Mom and Hannah. I pursued studies in administration and management, working relentlessly to establish myself. In my junior year, my friend Olivia and I secured internships at her father's restaurant chain. I formulated a development plan that astonished everyone. When it actually yielded results, profits surged within months. After graduation, Olivia's dad offered me a position. He was transitioning the restaurant management company to Olivia, and she desired me as her executive director. I'd be responsible for business development and modernization, essentially her chief collaborator. Olivia and I transformed that restaurant chain. We implemented food delivery services, developed a mobile application, and created workspaces where customers could use laptops while ordering food. We initiated cooking classes, installed live feed cameras in the kitchens to showcase their cleanliness and efficiency, and designed special selfie zones in each restaurant. Young people began flocking in. We retained our existing customers and attracted countless new ones. Business boomed, and suddenly I had a salary I'd never imagined. For the first time in my life, I possessed substantial savings. That's when Mom called about Richard's employment issues. He'd been let go, she explained, and they were struggling to meet the mortgage payments. Then Richard got on the phone. "Erica, I'm sorry for everything. You're our only hope right now." So, I consented to help. Each month, I sent money for their mortgage payment. Eventually, Richard found part-time work, but I continued paying anyway. It wasn't a financial burden for me, and they had grown accustomed to the assistance. I believed I was fostering a better relationship with them. I was mistaken. After that dreadful call with Mom, I sat on my couch for what felt like hours, simply staring at my phone. My thoughts were chaotic. I needed to speak with someone who would understand. I dialed Hannah's number. "Hey sis, what's up?" Hannah's cheerful voice was a stark contrast to my emotional state. "Mom just called," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "She told me not to come home for Christmas because your grandparents will be there. Your grandparents threatened to disinherit Richard if they found out they still spoke to me. Apparently, she's been telling them for years that they have no contact with me." "What the hell?" Hannah rarely swore. "She wants me to play along," I continued. "Pretend I'm not part of the family anymore so your grandparents will leave them money someday." "Well, the hell with it," Hannah stated firmly. "If you're not welcome there, then I'm not coming either. If they're choosing money over you, then they can have Christmas without both of us." Tears welled in my eyes. After everything we'd endured, Hannah remained the one person in my family who unconditionally supported me. After hanging up with Hannah, I felt a little better. I contacted a few friends who I knew had no family plans for Christmas. By the end of the night, I had organized an impromptu orphan Christmas at my apartment with Hannah and 5 friends. The day before Christmas, Hannah arrived with a small suitcase and a bag overflowing with decorations. "I raided the dollar store," she said, spilling glittery ornaments and tinsel onto my coffee table. "Your place needs some Christmas spirit." We spent the evening decorating my apartment, sipping wine, and catching up. Neither of us mentioned Mom or Richard or the inheritance situation. For a few hours, it felt just like old times. Christmas Day bore no resemblance to the formal, tense affairs we'd grown up with at home. My friends arrived around noon, each contributing food, drinks, or games. We ate too much, laughed too loudly, and probably drank more than we should have. It wasn't traditional, but it felt authentic. By the end of the night, even Hannah admitted it was the best Christmas she'd had in years. But of course, reality has a way of intruding. While scrolling through Instagram before bed, I saw a post from Mom. There she was, smiling next to Richard's parents in their living room, everyone wearing matching Christmas sweaters. The caption read, "So blessed to spend this special day with family." Family. The word felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I wasn't family anymore. I was an inconvenient truth to be concealed. I couldn't sleep that night. The Instagram post kept replaying in my mind, along with every monthly mortgage payment I'd been making. Every time I sent that money, I thought I was healing old wounds, building bridges. Now I realized I'd just been buying the illusion of family. The next morning, I made a decision. I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic transfer to my parents' mortgage account. Perhaps it was petty, but I was done being used. 2 weeks passed. I immersed myself in work, grateful for the post-holiday rush of new restaurant customers with their New Year's resolutions to try new places. Olivia and I were developing plans to open a new location, and I welcomed the distraction. Then Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. "Erica, there's a problem with the mortgage payment," she said without even a greeting. "Did you forget to send it?" "I didn't forget," I replied, maintaining a steady voice. "I canceled it." There was a moment of silence. "What do you mean you canceled it?" "I mean, I'm not paying your mortgage anymore." "But we're counting on that money." Her voice rose in panic. "The payment is due today." "You should have considered that before you betrayed me for your in-laws' money," I said. "You chose them over me. Now you can ask them to pay your mortgage." "This is about Christmas, Erica. You're being childish." "You explained that money is more important to you than I am." Message received. Her tone shifted then, from panicked to accusatory. "I know what you did. You convinced Hannah not to come for Christmas. You turned her against us." "What?" I didn't. You know what? I had to tell Richard's parents that she was seriously ill. I had to lie and invent an entire story because of you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've gone mad. Because of this inheritance issue. Normal people don't invent illnesses for their children, Mom. They don't disown them for money. You have no idea what you're talking about, she spat. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me lately, Mom, besides kick me out of Christmas and lie about my existence? She hung up on me. The next few months were quiet. Mom didn't call again, and I didn't reach out. Hannah maintained contact, visiting whenever she could. She had become my only genuine link to my past life, the sole family member who hadn't betrayed me. I focused on work, dedicating myself to new projects. Olivia and I expanded our restaurant brand, opening a new location across town. Business was thriving, life was stable, but a hollow feeling persisted when I thought about my family. Then, one evening in late April, Hannah called. Hey, I'm going to come visit you tomorrow, is that okay? Something in her voice sounded off, but I didn't press it. Hannah had always been direct when she wanted to be. The next day, just after noon, my doorbell chimed. I opened it to find not just Hannah, but Mom and Richard standing there too. What the hell? I recoiled, almost slamming the door. Hannah held up her hands. Hear them out, Erica, please. Looking at their faces, Mom's anxious, Richard's uncomfortable, Hannah's pleading, I knew this wouldn't be a brief conversation. They filed into my living room like strangers, which I suppose they somewhat were at this point. Mom clutched her purse to her chest. Richard stood awkwardly by the window. Hannah cleared her throat. So, I think Mom and Dad have something they want to say. Mom took a deep breath. Erica, we came to apologize. What I did at Christmas was wrong. I waited for more, but she seemed to believe that was sufficient. That's it? I finally inquired. We miss you, Richard added. The house isn't the same without you dropping by. The house I wasn't welcome in at Christmas? The house where you pretend I don't exist whenever your parents visit? My voice was rising, and I didn't care. You're going to have to do better than we miss you. Hannah touched my arm. Let her finish, Erica. Mom smiled awkwardly. You're right to be angry. We betrayed you. I betrayed you. I put money ahead of my own daughter, and I've been sick about it ever since. We don't need your financial help anymore, Richard said. I found a new job, better than the old one. We're managing the mortgage payments just fine. That's not why we're here. Then why are you here? I asked. Because we're family, Mom said, her voice cracking. And we almost threw that away. For what? For my in-laws' approval? For money we might get someday? It was wrong. Something about her sincerity gave me pause. I'd been prepared for excuses, for guilt trips, for manipulations. I wasn't prepared for genuine remorse. What about your parents? I asked Richard. Are they still planning to write you out of the will if they find out we talk? Richard looked down at his hands. I called them after you stopped sending money. Told them I wasn't going to pretend anymore that you're my daughter too. They flew off the handle, threatened to disown me. Just like they said they would. We had a huge fight. So what changed? I did, Hannah said. I called Grandma and Grandpa and told them I knew everything, that I fully supported you and Dad, and if they couldn't accept you as part of our family, then they'd lose me too. Mom nodded. They called back 3 days later, said they'd calmed down and were willing to accept things. They're not ready to lose Hannah. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive them, to have my family back. Another part remembered how easily they'd cast me aside when it was convenient. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said honestly. You shut me out when it suited you. What happens next time they threaten to cut you off? There won't. Be a next time, Mom insisted. We've drawn a line. You're our daughter, and that's non-negotiable. I looked at Hannah, who nodded encouragingly, then at Richard, who seemed more earnest than I'd seen him in years, and finally at Mom, whose eyes were filled with tears. I'm not saying everything's fine now, I said carefully. It's going to take time. But I'm willing to try. Mom let out a sob and rushed to hug me. I remained stiff in her embrace, not quite ready to give in completely. We've been looking into family therapy, Richard said when Mom finally released me. All 4 of us to work through the old stuff, not just this recent mess. Therapy? I couldn't conceal my surprise. Richard had always scoffed at my forced anger management sessions as a teenager. "It was Dad's idea," Hannah said, looking proud of him. "He says we all have baggage we need to unpack." "I should have stood up for you years ago," Richard admitted. "After the accident with Hannah's arm, I knew it wasn't your fault, but I let my parents dictate how I treated you. That wasn't right." I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to win his approval, the therapy sessions where counselors tried to fix me when I wasn't broken, the way I'd financially supported them even after all that, hoping it would make them love me. That evening extended into hours of painful but necessary conversation. We discussed old wounds I thought had healed but clearly hadn't, about the Christmas betrayal that had been the breaking point, about what it would take to rebuild trust. By the time they left, we had a plan. Weekly family therapy sessions starting. The following month, regular dinners, just the four of us with no in-laws allowed, and clear boundaries about what was and wasn't acceptable going forward. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. After they left, Hannah stayed behind. She flopped onto my couch with the familiarity of a sister who knew she was welcome. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't know," I answered honestly. Part of me wants to believe them. Another part is waiting for the other shoe to drop. "I get that," she said, picking at a loose thread on my throw pillow. "For what it's worth, I think they mean it this time. You should have seen Mom after Christmas. She was a mess, kept saying she'd made a horrible mistake." "Did they ask you to arrange this?" Hannah shook her head. "It was my idea. I was tired of being the go-between, of hearing them talk about how much they missed you while knowing they'd hurt you so badly." I leaned back, suddenly exhausted. "I'm not sure family therapy is going to fix everything." "Probably not," Hannah agreed. "But it's a step. And I'll be there too, making sure they don't backslide." I smiled at my sister, my real sister, regardless of blood. "When did you get so wise?" "Learned from the best," she said, nudging my shoulder with hers. "You never gave up on me, even when we were kids and I was a total brat. Now it's my turn not to give up on this family." That night, after Hannah left, I sat alone in my apartment, contemplating second chances, about family, both the one you're born into and the one you choose, about forgiveness. I wasn't certain if I was ready to fully let my parents back in. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. But maybe, just maybe, we could construct something new from the fragments of what had been shattered. The first family therapy session was as awkward as one would expect. Dr. Levine, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, had us sit in a circle and articulate our expectations. "I just want my family back," Mom said, dabbing at her eyes. "I want to understand why I was so easily disposable," I countered. Richard shifted uncomfortably. "I want to be a better father to both my daughters." Hannah, always the peacemaker, stated, "I want us to be honest with each other. No more secrets or lies." Dr. Levine nodded. "Those are all valid desires. This won't be easy, but acknowledging what you want is a good start." Over the next few weeks, we met regularly. Sometimes the sessions were productive. Sometimes they devolved into arguments or tears. But we kept showing up. Slowly, painfully, we unraveled years of misunderstandings, resentments, and fears. We discussed why I'd felt compelled to financially support them even after everything that had transpired, about how Richard's parents had weaponized their inheritance to control the family, about the Christmas betrayal that had finally broken me. Outside of therapy, we began rebuilding our relationship in small ways. Mom would call just to chat. Richard sent me articles about restaurant management he thought might interest me. Hannah and I maintained our sisterly bond, stronger than ever. 2 months into therapy, we experienced a breakthrough when Richard shared openly about his own childhood. "My parents always used money to control me," he said. "Growing up, if I didn't behave exactly as they wanted, they'd threaten to cut me off. When I wanted to marry my first wife, they threatened to disinherit me because they didn't approve of her. I stood my ground then, but after she died, I guess I didn't have the fight left in me. So when they started treating Erica the same way," Dr. Levine prompted. "I fell back into old patterns," he admitted, looking at me with genuine remorse. "I'm so sorry, Erica. I failed you." Something shifted in me that day. For the first time, I saw Richard not as the stepfather who had betrayed me, but as someone who'd been manipulated his whole life, just as I had been. We both deserved better. By the 3rd month of therapy, we were ready to test our new family dynamics in the real world. Mom invited me over for dinner at their house, my childhood home. I hadn't been there since before Christmas. As I pulled into the driveway, my stomach churned with anxiety. What if Richard's parents showed up unexpectedly? What if this was all an elaborate trap? But when I walked in, I was greeted by the aroma of my favorite meal, Mom's lasagna, and a dining room adorned with photographs. Pictures of me graduating college, photos of Hannah and me together, photos of all four of us from happier times. We put these back up, Mom explained, following my gaze. They belong here. You belong here. Dinner wasn't perfect. There were still awkward pauses and moments when old tensions threatened to resurface. But it felt like progress. After dinner, Richard pulled me aside. I need to show you something, he said, leading me to his office. On his desk was a legal document. What's this? I asked. I've been working with a lawyer to ensure that whatever happens with my parents' inheritance won't affect what I leave to you and Hannah. You'll both be treated equally in my will, no matter what. I stared at him, speechless. It's not about the money, he clarified quickly. It's about making sure you know that you are my daughter, Erica. Not by blood, but by choice. And nothing, not my parents, not their money, will ever change that again. I didn't cry often, but I cried then. On the drive home that night, I called Hannah. You won't believe what just happened, I told her, recounting the evening. I believe it, she said. Dad's been working on that will thing for weeks. He wanted it to be perfect for you. When did everything change so much? I wondered aloud. When you stood up for yourself, Hannah replied. You showed them they couldn't have it both ways. They couldn't treat you like garbage and still expect your financial support. It made them realize what they were losing. She was right. By cutting them off, both emotionally and financially, I'd forced them to make a choice. And surprisingly, they'd chosen me. The next therapy session, Dr. Levine asked us to share what we'd learned so far. I've learned that I can't control how others treat me, but I can control how I respond, I said. I don't have to keep paying, literally or figuratively, for people to love me. I've learned that I married a strong woman, Richard said, looking at Mom, who raised an even stronger daughter, and that standing up to my parents was long overdue. I've learned that family isn't just about blood or obligation, Mom added. It's a choice we make every day. Hannah smiled. I've learned that my sister is a total badass who doesn't take crap from anyone anymore. We all laughed at that. 6 months after the Christmas that almost shattered our family, we all went to dinner at a new restaurant my company had opened. As we sat around the table, laughing and sharing stories, I realized something important. We weren't the same family we'd been before. That family had been built on unspoken resentments, fear, and obligation. It wasn't perfect. We still had difficult days. Richard's parents remained a complicated presence in our lives, though they'd been remarkably quiet since our reconciliation. Old hurt sometimes resurfaced, but we were committed to working through it together. And that, I was beginning to believe, made all the difference.